Good evening. VBS Bank seems to be a headache that just won't go away for the economic freedom fighters. Over the past 48 hours, there have been more reports about money moving from VBS to the accounts of EFF leaders. Yesterday, the Sunday Times front page alleged Julius Malema was one of these. Today, the Daily Maverick published details of how money allegedly flowed from the Limpopo-based bank into a credit card account used by EFF deputy leader Floyd Shivambu. We've asked the EFF for their response to these stories today. So far, they haven't got back to us. Sikonathi Mantshantsha is a journalist at the Daily Maverick's investigative unit Scorpio. He joins us now by Skype. Sikonathi, good evening to you. Thank you for your time tonight. We've had a series of reports linking money from VBS to the economic freedom fighters. What kind of picture is being built up here?
Look, the evidence before us, indeed, my colleague has been working on this, Polly van Wyk mainly. The evidence before us is that money has indeed found its way to the EFF or its leaders at least, and they have not been really able to get rid of that story or even successfully explain away their holdings. So we keep waiting on them to see what exactly their defense will be or their explanation. They just seem to have none at this point.
So then, from the information that's being presented here, is it as simple as saying money from VBS is now being spent from EFF leaders? That's what the headlines seem to indicate.
The evidence that we've worked on the stories we have published in Daily Maverick show indeed that money was stolen from VBS Mutual Bank, paid into a company called Scorpio Projects and Grand Azania, which are owned by the brother of Floyd Shivambu, Brian Shivambu. And separately, we have shown stories in which monies, again, that were stolen from VBS, found their way into accounts linked to Julius Malema, companies owned by his friends. And the evidence shows, bank records show that both these men go around, or these cards that belong to these companies keep following both Julius Malema and indeed Floyd Shivambu around. So we showed transactions in which even Floyd Shivambu's name is mentioned 80 times in the bank account of Grand Azania and of Scorpio Projects, with monies going one way, going to Floyd Shivambu. So there is solid evidence that the money has been used for the benefit of at least these two EFF leaders.
What are they spending it on? Do we know where this money is actually going?
Very interesting stuff, Stephen. They go to luxury shops and buy Gucci products. For example, there's a payment of 20,400 rands by Grand Azania at a Gucci shop, and Julius Malema has had the same. They go and buy things like liquor, and of course there are some donations that find their way back to some people chosen carefully by these individuals in order to maximize publicity and their good deeds ahead of the general election, like donations of wheelchairs, for example, by Floyd Shivambu. And we can see the money that paid for those wheelchairs having come directly from the account of Grand Azania.
The money seems to be flowing through a circuitous route. From what I can see, it seems that members of the families of Malema and Shivambu are also involved in this.
Definitely. So one of them, a loan that seems fraudulent, in which Grand Azania applied for a home loan, and that home loan bought a house, which was then given by Floyd to his parents. You have another seemingly fictitious loan or illegal loan that was never paid back, that of 4 million rands. That was one of the big items where it was invested on a wine bar in Soweto. We also have direct evidence of that 1.8 million rand paying for Floyd Shivambu's Range Rover at a dealership in Sandton. These are monies that can be traced directly to Grand Azania. And as I have said, wherever Floyd goes, for example, he went to celebrate his birthday in Zambia at Victoria Falls. That bank card of Grand Azania was used there, paying for some expenses that have got absolutely nothing to do with any legitimate business transaction.
The bank VBS, it collapsed after councils in Limpopo primarily, but two in Gauteng, after municipalities invested millions of rand in the bank. That was despite an instruction from the National Treasury that they should not do that. The councils who invested this money into the bank were controlled by the ANC. It would seem it's not just the EFF, the ANC must be involved in this too?
Definitely. More than, you could say, 95% of the 2 billion rand that was stolen from the VBS Mutual Bank was indeed shared, or rather originated from ANC municipalities and the mayors and the councillors involved in the received kickbacks. And so a lot of that money went through that, and the directors of VBS themselves received some of the money, and some of those municipal councillors were removed from their positions by the ANC.
Why is there so much of a focus on the EFF in these stories? If this seems to be a story that involved ANC mayors primarily, presumably people should be asking questions there.
Definitely, Stephen. What we have now, you would have, for example, a person by the name of Florence Radzilani, who was a mayor of one of the Vembe municipality, who, having received a payment of 300,000 rands, complained to the people that had brokered the deal for more money. So she was removed as councillor, but inexplicably was actually sworn in as a member of the provincial legislature earlier this year. So the question you're asking is why no focus on them? You would have those people with one liner across the VBS statements receiving that, for example, 300,000 or a million rands in the case of someone else. But when it comes to Floyd Shivambu, to Grand Azania, when it comes to Skameka projects, when it comes to the companies linked to Julius Malema, you see a sustained level of payments totaling about 16 million rands in the case of Skameka projects. So there was a solid and persistent campaign to drain the funds here. Definitely, the fact that someone has stolen 300,000 rands does not make that amount go away, or that act of illegality, that theft, negligible. What we do have at this point is the people who received in their individual capacity the biggest amounts of money. That is the investigators that have been working on this, the evidence they have been able to gather, and indeed the journalists have had access to those. There will have to be, of course, priorities. So at the moment, we're working with what we have.
Okay, there are several other questions that come out of this. I mean, the first is that we all remember the great bank heist, the VBS report put together by Advocate Terry Mutau. So far, from what I understand, despite all of the evidence presented in that document, the payments went through the Reserve Bank, no one's been prosecuted for anything that happened around VBS.
Absolutely nobody has been prosecuted for anything. Nobody has been warned by the police in any way. As far as we know, there is no formal investigation. There's not a point where the police said, we are investigating Mr. So-and-so or this matter and that matter. Definitely criminal charges of theft, corruption and fraud have been laid against people, but the prosecuting authorities and the police have not so as yet come to the party. I guess the police themselves, the NPA, and the Director of Public Prosecution have to answer the question, what are they doing about VBS? Advocate Terry Mutau did indeed show how unsophisticated these crimes were, how simple it was. Money came in and there was not even an attempt to disguise money being paid out illegally to named people. People were so brazen that they were able to put their names, their ID numbers on the bank statement. So there's a lot of evidence. What is missing, the police action. There is no arrest, there's no interest, Sim.
All right, Sikonathi, I mean, in the middle of all of this, there are questions around what is the possible political fallout. Has there been political reaction already? The EFF got just under 11% in the elections. Do you think the VBS scandals had an impact on their political fortunes?
Stephen, that's a political question. A financial journalist is probably not qualified to answer. But what we have to worry about is why are the police, why are the law enforcement agencies doing absolutely nothing. They are not at all interested in the massive evidence before them. Let's repeat this again. Terry Mutau, within just 3 months, was able to piece together and find people who have received monies illegally, and some of them have indeed paid back some of the money. That's the civil side of things, to recover the lost cash. What has not happened is the criminal investigations, the arrests that really are necessary to deter these events like these in the future.
Sikonathi, I mean, you will know that we've had so many stories around corruption recently. The President just today in London talking about the amount that corruption has cost the country. For the moment, no prosecutions, despite VBS in that report, despite the Zondo Commission inquiry and the testimony we've seen there. We have seen some action from the Justice Ministry around new advocates being appointed. We've seen some action from the Americans. Do you think that something is changing? Are you expecting prosecutions to come soon?
Absolutely. There is a lot of change, it would seem, in the background at least. I mean, you could see last weekend, not necessarily with the VBS matter, but the raids on Zandile Gumede in eThekwini, the former mayor there. And there is quite a bit happening, and indeed the Treasury of the United States government. There is some action, and as you said, the Justice Minister has confirmed that South Africa has asked for the cooperation of 8 other countries in order to bring the Gupta family back to South Africa to account for the crimes for which they are accused of state capture. There seemingly is something going on. But a country that has been traumatized by this massive amount of looting over the past 10 years, I'm sure we can be justified in expecting a little more drastic action, like arrests of people and prosecutions now, not yesterday. The whole evidence that is before the public, that journalists like Polly van Wyk have been able to bring to the public, has been available to the law enforcement agencies for years. When it comes to state capture, every journalist in South Africa was writing about state capture based on easily available evidence, but the police were missing in action. They still are. And President Ramaphosa is quite correct in saying the corruption has cost this country billions. He should know, because it's his party that actually perpetuated that corruption.
Sikonathi Mantshantsha, thanks very much indeed, journalist with the Daily Maverick's Scorpio investigative unit.